And welcome to using Facebook groups to connect with your audience. A bit beyond the Facebook page, we're going to go a bit further. Let's see if we can get that sound sounding a bit closer to home. There we go. That might be a little bit clearer. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Now we'll get a bit underway. We've got a few people joining us from across Queensland, Northern Territory, and Western Australia as well, by the looks of it. So thank you for joining me this afternoon. My name is Dante and James. I'm a lead community trainer with Facebook Australia New Zealand, head of digital at Darwin's Treaty Business Consulting, and a founder of Clickstarter Australia, which is a regional Australian digital marketing agency. In today, we're going to go through an agenda that includes creating a community beyond your business page. We're going to build a Facebook group. We're going to look at tips for a successful Facebook group, and as well as going through the ideas of building a vibrant community. Thanks to Business Station and the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions Program for this afternoon's presentation, and also for the Facebook Community Trainer Network, of which I'm part, for allowing us to bring this to you this afternoon. Thanks also to Regional Development Australia Brisbane in Queensland for the ASBAS Digital Solutions Program, and Treaty Business Consulting in the Northern Territory. It's Facebook's mission to give people the power to build community, they say, and every month over 2.7 billion people are connecting with all their loved ones across all the topics that they love, the people that they love, and connecting to them. We all know how Facebook works. But small business have been building communities for probably even longer on Facebook and across all sorts of marketing channels, including digital marketing channels. Facebook is a place where you meet friends, but it's also where you connect over shared values, to learn hobbies, to connect with businesses, to connect with other communities and other people in your community. And you can find a lot of very, very vibrant communities out there. There's an example of one I think I joined ages ago, which the Kmart Unhacks and Roasts group. It was all to do with, I guess, a bit of a backlash on the Kmart hacks group. So all the mum groups of how they turned Kmart items into something different. And this was an example of when those go wrong. So it's quite funny. You might have to have a thick skin if you're the kind of person who likes to do crafts, or you might be a Kmart mum yourself. Put on your thick skin before you go into the group, because it can get a little bit on the nasty side. But other groups can continue to be local groups. Say, for instance, people helping people during the coronavirus pandemic, or people helping people after natural disasters such as bushfires, drought assistance, and during cyclones. I was involved in quite a few community groups after Cyclone Marcus came through Darwin in 2018. So there's all sorts of things that we gather about. But Facebook groups, I guess, are really meant to help create conversations that are less about your brand and less about your business and more about the shared interests of the people in those groups. And that's a very important differentiator when it comes to groups, as opposed to your page. Whereas your page is pretty much a conversation between you and your customers. This isn't necessarily a conversation with you and your customers. It's a conversation between customers and each other. You're a part of it. You can moderate that for sure, but it's not necessarily the core of it to talk about your business, what you sell and what you provide. Some great examples of some very, very big groups that occur in almost every community around Australia will be the buy, sell and swap groups. Those abilities to be able to sell the things you don't have, swap it for other things, or look for things you're trying to buy that may be available through people in those groups. So that's one of the bigger uses for it. And that's a perfect example of the kind of community we're looking about. What we're going to do now is look at how people engage and learn what matters to a community in an example from the Gold Coast here in Australia, in Queensland. I am actually on the Gold Coast right now, usually based in Darwin, but I'm currently seeing my family on the Gold Coast. And this is probably a little close to home because I met these folks last time I was here.
We never had a vision of starting a company, electric skateboard company. It was always more about a passion for going for that ride to get that release from their everyday life. In the beginning, I was trying to make some boards for my mates. We had an investor. After some time, it didn't quite work out, but they loved the idea, they loved the concept, but they couldn't see it as a business. It was the time where it was like, all right, what do we do? Do we just keep it as a hobby and give up?
I remember him saying, would you be keen to sell the house and to really give this a shot? It was massive for us. This was our first home. We got married in the house. There was just a little bit of magic, and yeah, I guess it paid off.
When we decided to actually do this ourselves, we then just go, right, well, we've got to get the word out there. We decided to create a Facebook page, called it Evolve Skateboards. Our strategy was, let's get some images, create some videos, and put them on there. The word started to get out there pretty quickly, and especially when we started getting interest from other countries. They were seeing these videos and they were sharing them on their feeds, and we found that they just love getting out there and filming themselves. We've got these friendships forming internationally through all these different writers groups. They've found someone who shares a similar passion for something that they do. This culture that's been created organically, it's just a proud moment seeing the adventures of Evolve. It spins me out.
So exactly just like Evolve, you can have a community of people who share a similar passion to you as well. It could be around a product like a skateboard that has a battery power to it. It could be about anything you like. I'm sure a lot of you can think of activities or different hobbies or different interests you might have with a lot of people that are related to your business. So for instance, your craft store, there's definitely some open opportunities for sharing craft patterns and different ideas. You could be in a coaching situation where you're a life coach or an executive coach, where those kind of things could be very much in your ballpark as well, where you can share ideas, have conversations with people. That's pretty much what groups are all about. What we need to probably think about when we think about groups is not so much that they're about the idea that people would be connecting with your brand. So it's not the Coca-Cola fan group or the I'm a fan of this particular coach group. It's a place for people to have conversations. Now, likewise, you can use a group around conversations of a very special, very closed group of people. It could be your clients. It could be a place where people join a specific group as paying their way into, I guess, a silver circle of sorts, a private circle. It could be a very private group. It doesn't have to be a very huge public one. But the most successful groups out there are the ones that are open to the public to join, and they're around a topic rather than around a brand. So how do we do all this? Well, we start off by looking at the idea that you have a profile on Facebook. We all know that. We've all got one. We all talk to our families and friends on there. That's what we use our messenger through. But a profile can then create what is a page. Now, I'm assuming if you're a business and you're on this call today, you have a Facebook page. But also a page can then go and create a group, and you can access and be part of that group to interact as your business or interact as a person. Now, it's up to you when you create your group, whether you want to, in your group settings, allow people to be able to interact as their business pages or only as personal profiles. Now, it will very much depend upon what your preferences are. It'll very much depend upon what you really want as far as the kind of people that you want in there. A lot of groups feel really bad about having people in there who are from businesses as opposed to individuals. I feel like it's a way of sort of selling out. If they're allowing businesses to interact, it'll get spammy. And that's kind of true. I've seen where that's happened in a lot of the local advice groups, a lot of the local support groups. It gets very, very spammy very, very quickly when you have groups that are full of businesses interacting rather than people interacting. Doesn't mean you can't do it though. Posting as your page is able to be done. You just have to set that as a default in your group, so that Jasper's Boutique here, who doesn't just own this group, can actually communicate as their page within that group. But as I said, you have to actually set that to happen. Otherwise, the default is usually to not have brands be able to participate in group conversations. So before we even start looking at a group, we've got to get an idea of whether groups are even a place that's right for you. Is a group right for your Facebook page? Well, it's a place where you can share common interests. Yes, that's true. You can share a common interest in a cause. So pages and groups can form around causes. They can form around issues. They can form around activities as well. So for those of you trying to decide if a group's right for you, maybe you need to look at whether your goal is to connect with customers who share common interests, either with yourself or with each other. Now, you don't necessarily have to create a group that's anything to do with your business. You might create a group as a way to build a community onto which you can perhaps sell something into that group. You may develop a group who has a shared interest in a particular tennis club, a ballet recital studio. It could be a drama club or the local squash club. That could be a shared interest you can create a group around. You can also create groups around where there's relevant causes or issues that your business and your customers would like to discuss. So for instance, where you see a lot of groups appear during cyclone recoveries and earthquake recoveries and any sort of natural disaster recovery, you'll see that people will build a group that people can come into and very quickly see on their feed as well the relevant posts that come with it. Those groups grow and they go away when they're no longer needed. Sometimes those groups can change into something a bit more formal and a bit more permanent. And then ask yourself, would you like to engage with your customer in activities in the community? So are you willing to have those conversations? Are you willing to moderate the conversations that are going on? Now, remembering again that groups are not necessarily built around your brand. Unless you've built a specific group for you that is just about you as a brand or about your brand, then it's a hard one to really come up with, because you can do it, but the best practice is not to do it. But if you are going to do it, it's probably best off being a private group that's to do with your current customers or your current clients. Or you could use a group just to open up a general conversation. Say, for instance, if you are a consultant who sells fitness wear, you may want to create your local fitness group where all sorts of fitness things are discussed, and you can occasionally drop in, hey, I do sell this. The problem is though, once you create that party in the backyard where people are enjoying their sausage sandwiches and their steaks and their salads and they're having conversations, if you suddenly start going into that, dropping in sales messages, you're going to become that person at the party, that person who, oh, that person's the one who's always trying to sell us something. Let's stay away from them. And if too much of that happens from you or from others in the group, then that group very, very quickly becomes nothing. People are very, very edgy when it comes to being sold to all the time. So what we're going to do in a group is create a Facebook group for your business, but we need to know more about other small businesses that are using groups. And I want to introduce you to the Peach Truck. The Peach Truck is a great example of a small business that created a group from a lot of following of their page. Now the Peach Truck produces a whole lot of very, very lovely food around the peach as a fruit, and they have all sorts of recipes. They decided that it was time to go beyond just having a Peach Truck page, and they wanted to have a recipe swap. Because they already have so many recipes for peaches themselves, they decided that they want to do one as well. They wanted to get a little bit of extra exposure out there in the fans of peaches as a cooking ingredient. So Stephen and Jessica, they first started touring their old Jeep and they used to sell peaches. That's what the Peach Truck is. But they wanted to go beyond that and now become, kind of leaders in the world of peach distribution in recipes. They wanted to see what ideas people had about that, particularly in their local area in southern United States, in Georgia, where they were mostly selling their peaches. So instead of going the Peach Truck group, where people could just talk about the locations of the Peach Truck, where it's turning up and what kind of peaches the Peach Truck sell, that's very limited. They made it a recipe swap group, an ability for people to be able to share recipes, ideas, and how they use peaches. It was associated with their brand, but everybody's welcome to come and swap all kinds of recipes in there. It's become about 2.2 thousand members, probably about 3,000 now at least, last time I looked, in that particular group. And if you're ever interested in what you can cook peaches in, well, that's probably a good place to start. Stephen, who's one of the founders of the Peach Truck, said it's a great way to get your fans talking. People want the opportunity to be part of something bigger than themselves, and a group like this is a great opportunity to do that. They're not talking about the Peach Truck in here. They're talking about how to use peaches. That has an indirect benefit to the Peach Truck, because now people will be wanting more peaches because they're cooking so many different peach recipes. You can see how it's now around not the brand itself, even though the brand is mentioned in the name of the group. It's about a common interest that the group, that the business has, with a community of people who love cooking with peaches. So before you start building a group, the few things you may want to decide. You want to say, well, is a group right for my business? Is this something I can actually do? Do I have the time to set up, grow this thing up, and moderate along the way? And what is the particular goal that I might have with the group? Remember from the previous slide, a group might be right for you if you have a goal of, say, speaking with your customers who share a passion like peaches with you, or enhancing some kind of emotional connection with your audience. The Dove Beauty Project did a lot of that. The Dove Self-Esteem Project, sorry, had a lot to do with that. It became a very, very big group on Facebook and other social media with women to discuss how using beauty products to enhance their self-esteem was something that really they did, and how they weren't using it to cover up. They weren't using it to become fake. They were using it to enhance what they already had. You can discuss causes and issues. It could be natural disasters. It could be your particular charity of choice, your particular cause of choice that you can build a group around. And you can engage in those activities with your customers in the community so that it becomes, perhaps the peach truck help a mate campaign. And you want to get 5,000 people from who may or may not have anything to do with the peach truck, but it's all about helping people out. Or it could be let's pick a place in Darwin, the Palmerston Knitters Circle. And it's just basically a bunch of people who love doing crafts. And now it's got maybe run by the local craft shop in Palmerston, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's about the local craft shop in Palmerston. In fact, a group generally will take on a life of its own well beyond that. The beauty of the group to a business, though, is that you get the chance to have some kind of conversation with all those people. If you're representing yourself as your business in that group, and you're not constantly trying to sell people things, you're helping them out. You're introducing them to each other. You are facilitating conversations and starting topics that people can talk about. You become the expert in the room, and that allows you to be the person who becomes the expert at what you do. And that immediately has a link back to your business, particularly if your group is focused on a local area. So here's another example, is Love Your Melon. So Love Your Melon's a foundation dedicating to providing a hat to every child battling cancer in the US. And they're pretty good supporters of the overall fight against pediatric cancer overall. Here they create a private group for their campus crew members to use to share information and connect. This is people who actually went out to college campuses and high school campuses as representatives of Love Your Melon. And they go out there and they connect with each other and talk about the situations they've come across, where they've needed help, and how they've wanted to help spread the Love Your Melon message throughout the US. It's got over 9,000 members now within their socially conscious community, within this particular community. This is not for everybody, so people who are willing to help out with this, and allows them all to connect with each other. So that's very different than a branded kind of community. This is a community specifically for people who are involved in this particular cause. So let's look at how we create a group. All these screenshots are going to be from the classic Facebook layout. The new Facebook layout is rolling out. Next month, it's going to be the default. So we're all sort of going, oh, it's going to be a bit scary. So if you've still got the classic layout, this will make sense to you. If you've got the new layout, there are very similar things. Most of these things are, in fact, all the group functions are still very much the same. It's just that some of the menus might be in different places. Instead of being on the side, they might be on the top, and they might be in slightly different spots. But hopefully you'll be able to follow along. We're in transition now with Facebook, so it makes it a little bit difficult to keep everything up to date perfectly. So if we're going to create a group, we go to what I call the carrot menu, top right. And that's a little triangle that allows you to pull down to the idea of creating groups or new groups, managing groups, creating ads, managing ads, creating pages. We're going to create a new group. And it's going to give us some options as well to see groups that are already there. Here's some suggestions you already have. Here's how you can discover a few extra groups that might be there. This is where you'll be prompted once you start that create group thing from here as well, to name your group. Now name it something which is totally appropriate for what you're trying to do. Are you trying to create a group that's about a cause? Mention the cause in there. Is it about a local area? Mention the name of your town or your suburb or your area, your local council area, to bring it into some kind of relevance. There's two different kinds of groups, which are the private groups and the public groups. You want it to be visible or not visible to the general public. Public groups are public, meaning that anyone can see what's on the group page. And depending on the group settings, people who want to join the group might need to be approved by you as a moderator or one of the other admins that are in there that you've set as being an admin. Some of them just require an existing group member to approve the access to that group. We'll talk more about this setting a bit later. The Peach Truck story we discussed earlier is a great example of a public group. You can see what's in the group, but you can't start to comment or make posts until you join the group. And that will be approved by an existing member of the group. It doesn't have to be approved necessarily by the admins of the group. Private groups are searchable on Facebook. You can find them, but you can't see anything on them. You can request to join them, but the content is only visible to members, and those groups will be in your groups tab once you have joined, but you've got to be aware that if you want to join those groups, you have to request to join those groups, and an admin or moderator will let you in. Depending on the settings, it might actually also be a member of the group, but more than usual, if it's a private group, it's the admin or moderator of the group that's going to be the one who's going to have to let you in. So they are searchable. You can find them, you just cannot see what's on those pages. So we're going to create the name of our group. And once we create that, we want to personalize it by adding some people to it. We want to add a few people to our group. Start with friends, family members, people who you're already connected to, people who you think may share some interest in that group with you, and maybe co-workers and colleagues. Then as we move on, we start looking at, yes, whether we're going to make it public or private. And once we have all the details in, we're going to create that group. Now we're going to start looking at the roles in the group. These are the people who are going to perform different functions in there. An admin can change the group name. They can change the cover photo. They can change the settings of that group, the privacy settings. They can even delete the group. They can do all the same things as a moderator who can approve and decline people joining the group as members. They're allowed to post as the business. So if you own the group, you can post as the business, even if you've set it for no one else to do that. You can also approve and decline posts as they're coming in. You can turn on membership approvals by going to this very beautiful little page. You can see down the bottom there that you can have a membership approval has to be sought by anyone joining the group, or that people like the admins and the moderators can approve the new members. This is if you have membership approvals on. Now, if you're looking to start up a very successful Facebook group, well, we've talked about the nuts and bolts of setting one up, but how do you make it a successful one? Well, you need to make a great first impression for your group by selecting a group cover photo that's going to really stand out and attract your audience. We also recommend you spend a bit of time crafting the group's description. Making a great impression of that description means you're able to tell people really what they can expect once they get in that group. It'll help ensure that new and potential new members are aware of the group's behavioral codes, the behavioral standards, the group rules, if you like. Now, once your group is set up and you're ready to have some members, there are a couple of ways you can help you grow your community. You can send a bulk invite to up to 1,000 people that you're connected to on Facebook. That's a fantastic thing to be able to do. If you've got 1,000 people you know, hell, invite them all if they're appropriate for that group. You don't necessarily want people to come into the seasonal recipes group who've never cooked anything beyond toast. They're probably not the right kind of people who are going to enjoy that group. Think of the people that may enjoy your particular group and may have some way of participating in it and enjoying the content that's in there. This makes sure then that you have the right people in there, because these people are going to also interact with each other. So up to 1,000 you can do. You can add a join group connection to your business page in your emails, which goes up in the top right-hand corner. It's like a button you can add to anything, or a link that you can link to people to join your group through an email signature or through your website, anything like that. Now you can go to do things such as making a post. Now make sure your new members feel welcome by doing a post, by posting some kind of welcome message. Now I've got one here. Let's welcome our new members. I know that the Boost with Facebook Australia group that I'm part of and am a moderator of allows me to welcome new members, and they do it every Monday. Every time there's members, so there could be 100 new members in a week, there could be 1,000 new members in a week. They list them all, and as they do, they say, hey, if you're being listed here, please tell us a little bit about your business. And it makes a great conversational thread every Monday to start off the new week with people going, I'm from this business and this is what we do. And then those of us who are moderators and helpers on that group we go in and personally welcome people in to make they feel welcome and invite them to contribute to the conversations in the group, ask the questions where they get stuck, and answer other people's questions if they know the answer to it as well. We want that particular group to not so much be, you know, that you ask questions, we answer them. It's more about you ask questions and you may answer questions too if you like. It's a great, very friendly community. I really hope you can join that one. It's Boost with Facebook Australia. It's like a support group for businesses on Facebook, and it's an official Facebook supported group as well. So now you've created your welcome message, you've got your group going, you've got a nice pretty cover photo. We're going to go to create some content for that group. And we want to make sure that the content we're creating in here, much the same as on our page, is targeted to the kinds of people who are likely to be in that group. And a little preparation goes a long, long way to ensuring you keep that community on topic and active. You can create a list or a content calendar. If you've got a calendar layout or a Microsoft Excel layout that you use to plan your content, this is where it can come into play. Plan out what you want to do to start conversations. Be the conversation starter if you're an admin or a moderator of a group. Be the people who go in and keep the conversation going. Groups can be fantastic places to be, but when they become very quiet, they become ghost towns, and it's very hard to get a very inactive group super active again and being posted into the feeds of all the people who are in it. So once you start, bear in mind you have to keep on going. It's not going to just simply do it for you. You may want to get input from the group by running things like polls. You can post questions, polls, ask for feedback. That's a way for people to know what it is that they want to see in the group. Say, for instance, you are an IT support company and you have a group of 1,000 people who are following you because they're customers. You can start a group that helps people to help each other, so that when you're getting the work through your IT support company, you're not getting the rubbish of, oh, how do I print? When anyone else in the group can tell on that. You get the work that actually has some significance that can make you some decent money. So you're not mucking around having to do so much tech support. You're there to do the things that really matter to help people get through, not the basic things that anybody could Google the answer to. And you can also interact with your group using Facebook Live. You can go live videos within groups. And in fact, this is where perhaps it is done most effectively rather than through pages or individual private profiles. Private profiles, you'll only ever see it if you're a follower. If you actually are connected to that person, follow them. On a Facebook page, you may be prompted to people that you're going to do a Facebook Live, but pages are not places where people feel like they can have a very close conversation with you. In a group, it's a lot more intimate. In a group, you're most likely to follow an administrator in there because you had more conversations with them. That's usually the case. Conversations are deeper and more meaningful and a lot more impactful when they're done through groups because of the privacy of a group. A group can be a lot more intimate than a Facebook page. When Facebook page generally, like someone posts something to your messages, not to your actual page feed. Although you might have that open as well. So you can try asking questions, as we said. If you think about what you're hoping your members to do, asking questions is probably a very fun way to invite them into a conversation. You can post a question such as this one: what's your favorite kind of pie? Let us know, and you may see a fresh selection of them at the market this weekend. That'd be fantastic. What are the recipes? What's your favorite ingredient right now that is in late winter and going into spring? Do you like cooking with rosemary? Are you a thyme girl? Or do you prefer a good old bit of cloves in your dinner? You know, get some ideas about what people like and what they respond to, and then jump in and you can start things around that. If it's talking about food, for instance, if oregano is the winning herb, then you go, okay, for the winning herb, we're going to give you a free recipe. Make sure you watch this group to see that recipe we're going to post. So that way you're not just getting information about what people like, you're getting ideas for posting new material into your groups. If you're a clothing store, for instance, you might want to, oh, I don't know, ask your group about what your favorite color is, for instance. You know, what's a favorite color of t-shirt? Do you prefer to wear purple or orange at this time of the year? If you're a bakery, you might sell wedding cakes. You might ask about your group's favorite flavor combinations. Are you a chocolate mud cake? Are you a sponge cake person? Or do you prefer a red velvet cake underneath all that wedding frosting? Maybe if you're a real estate agent, you might want to ask your group about some tips for home improvement before selling their homes. So you can see all sorts of interaction where you start posting stuff and people start talking back to you. And if other people in the group start posting stuff, it makes sense for you to also participate and answer those things and put some comments there and likes and even, encourage other people to say, hey, your pastries look delicious. Has anyone else got one? I'm feeling hungry. You can start these conversations and then people will start have a conversation back with you. And this is where you get the most interactive, engaging conversations and connections between you and your customers or potential new customers. Remember, this is a seasonal recipes one, but it happens to be owned by ASBAS Market. But they haven't made it about ASBAS Market, except for the fact that ASBAS Market can interact in the group as ASBAS Market. So people go, oh, that's the store down the street. Huh, they're talking to me. Maybe there is a chance that someone in that store actually cares about what I have to say. When people feel like they're heard, they feel even more intimately involved in a community. In the case here, you'll see that there's a poll of whether you like to see a fresh selection of the market this week and of apples, peaches, berries, pumpkins, or you can add an option for something else. This is much the same as the polls that you could be running in your pages. You can also run them right here in your group as well. You can also create events just for groups. Events are not just a thing for pages. They're not just a thing for people. They're also for groups. You may have a in the real world event for your group. Say, for instance, you're ASBAS Market and you're facilitating a soup kitchen cook-up to help the homeless in winter. You can do that by starting an event that goes out to the group. So all the group members will see that there is an event that they can RSVP to. They can say they're coming to it. They can say they're not coming to it, or they're just interested in it. And if you make that a public event, then people are able to share it with their friends as well, which makes it go a lot further than just your group. Now, anyone who's been part of groups know that when you participate in groups quite heavily, it comes up a lot on your feed. So you can imagine when the group that you're participating in a lot has an event, that's going to come up on your feed quite a lot. If you're the person creating the events within the group, then your event's going to get a lot more coverage than just one that goes out through a Facebook page. So just some ideas there to help you with the kind of things that grow groups and give you some best practices. You can also moderate posts. So if there's a comment that you don't like that's starting up here, or if the comments are starting to get a little bit out of control on a poll or on some kind of post, you can turn off commenting on that just by clicking on the little dots, the 3 dots on the side, top right-hand corner of the post. Pull down that menu to turn off commenting, and then you will turn off any further commenting for that particular post. You can also delete the post, edit it from in there, whether it's yours or not. Claire Lee, who's the owner of Venue Queen, said, by joining group discussions using my business page identity, I've been able to raise the profile of my business. And this is where it comes in. Even though the group isn't necessarily about your business, it may be about the things that your business does. By interacting in there as your business, remembering it is your group, you can do that even if no one else can. It allows you to answer questions as a business rather than as an individual. So your profile as a business is raised within that group. You can start to see a lot of potential for, if I do 15 different things, I could have 15 different groups that all talk about those different things, and I can interact as my business in them. It's a great way of growing community around not just your brand, because remember, that's not the point of it. It's growing around an interest. If you're a wellness consultant, you sell protein powder, you sell supplements, you do personal training, you may even sell scented oils. In all those 4 cases, you've got room to set up individual groups about those topics where you interact as your business. So you get some value out of it. We often get asked, if it's not about me, well, how do I get some kind of value out of starting a group in the first place? How do I get some kind of idea that this is even something I want to do as part of my group? Now, once you've created the group, once you've had conversations in your group and had posts and people are interacting and engaging, you want to keep an eye on how things are going. You want to measure and optimize your group. And you do that through your group insights. Now, group insights can be viewed by navigating to your group and selecting the Group Insights tab on your desktop. This is where it's available. Now, Group Insights enable you to see real-time view of metrics like the number of new members who are joining. You can see the number of posts that are going through and how they're working through over a given period of time. You can see the likes, the reactions, the engagement in that group. You can see the popular days. It provides you with a bit of a graph for the posts, the comments, the reactions. So you can see a lot more of the stuff that's going on in your group, what's working the best, kind of like the insights you see on your Facebook page as well, or on your Instagram profile. You can see what the top posts are. And these insights can help you to target those really important messages at the times and the days that work best. See, we can see in this, for instance, that Thursday is a great day. And around about, about 7 p.m. seems to be where people are most active. Thursday, 7 p.m. So we know if we've got something important to say that we want to get out to as many people as possible, then Thursday, 7 p.m. might be a pretty good time to do that. You might want to avoid Saturday at 4 a.m., for instance. Although I think that's pretty obvious to most people. Now, just be careful though, because those group insights I was talking about, they're only available if your group has more than 50 members. So 50 or more members before you can get these group insights. Obviously, you need some numbers in there before you can see any sort of meaningful stats and graphs in there. So 50 or more, and then you'll suddenly get this groups insights tab popping up. So the key takeaways from this one, the groups provide a really good opportunity to have conversations with your customers. These conversations give you insights into what matters most to them and can allow you to sort of tailor yourself around how you use Facebook as a business, not just as a person, but as a business, and decide on the kind of messaging you want to put out there to your customers. You can have one style of messaging going out from your Facebook page and a completely different kind of messaging going out there to your Facebook group. You can share content fairly regularly as well, and you keep them up to date on a very regular basis to ensure that they're staying connected with your group. You want people to be engaging with the group on an ongoing basis. If you want a group that has some time to last, you want to have some legs going off into the future, then you have to share content regularly and interact with that content regularly as well. And of course, keep an eye on those group insights, because they're going to be what gives you a gauge about the health of your community. They're those things that are going to tell you whether your community is growing, whether it's stagnant, what the time of the day is best to post, what time of the day is not great to post in, and who are the people in terms of their demographics, men, women, what age group, and where are they actually from. So you know how to craft your message to best reach those people in the most effective way possible. Place where you can learn a lot more about your Facebook groups is through the Facebook Blueprint, facebook.com/blueprint. It's about 300 different lessons in there. They take between 2 minutes and 15 minutes to go and learn how to do all sorts of things. And it'll help you out, not just with Facebook, but also with Instagram as well. It gives you an option to look through all the different things to do with the Facebook family of apps. I've got a question in here I'm just going to bring up, but I need to turn off my screen sharing just for a sec. There we go. Let me see if I can read that question now. Q&A. It comes from Karen. I sometimes see group members have a badge next to their name, example, rising stars, conversation stars, visual storytellers. Yeah, that's something you actually set in your group settings yourself. You can set what badges are. So whether there's someone who is a conversation starter or a visual storyteller, they seem to be those things that are available to bigger groups. Not all groups do have them. So once your group gets big enough for you to actually have a differentiation between them, then you'll have that suddenly be turned on. So if you manage a group, you can turn these settings on if your group's actually qualifying for it. If your group has, then you can set those things. But that's very much the default things. Those badges are very much, you know, rising stars would be something which is someone who's just suddenly becoming more active in the group. And the conversation stars are people who naturally start topics and conversations within the group. From what I remember, if I'm going right, there's about 1,000 people in the group before you start to get those kicking in. That may have changed. There's been so many changes in the last couple of months when it comes to Facebook in general. Not so much with the groups, but still has been some general changes that may have been affecting that as well. So thanks for raising that, Karen. It's a really good point. There's certainly things that are fun to see in a group environment. Thank you so much for joining us. A really quick one tonight. It's usually a much longer one. I'm sorry for the video before being a bit jumpy and perhaps not coming through particularly clearly. Sharing video over Zoom with Australians Australia's NBN can sometimes be a challenge. And I'm actually doing this from the spare bedroom at my parents' place on the Gold Coast, where I'm visiting outside of Darwin to visit them on the Gold Coast. So I haven't quite got the facilities I normally have and the multiple screens all around me, but I do appreciate you joining me this afternoon. If you've got any questions, I'll just drop my email address in the chat, and you can ask me any questions you like to in there about Facebook groups or any support. But ultimately though, more than my email address, it'll be that group. The Boost with Facebook Australia group is probably the best place to get some answers immediately. So you're getting answers from not just me, but the team at Facebook as well, and from the other trainers who work with me in the Facebook Community Trainer Network. So if you've got any questions, shoot them through to me, but really get into that Facebook group, Boost with Facebook Australia, and you can ask any question. That no question's dumb. No one's going to come down you and say you're stupid for asking a question you think is silly. We just love to see your interaction in there. And I'd love to see more Queenslanders and Western Australians and Northern Territorians in there to offset all these Victorians and New South Welsh people. So thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. A really nice quick one so you can get on the dinner and have a fantastic evening. Thank you and good night.